What in the world am I doing with plated steel on my table? Well, it's not. It's actually the Absolute Dark Knight's Metal from DC Comics. So join me, the Uncanny Omar, here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, for your overview of this latest Absolute edition from DC. And welcome back, everybody. So here we have the latest Absolute edition from DC Comics, Absolute Dark Knight's Metal, and it has a very unique slipcase. So this all comes shrink wrapped in plastic, but I do want to say that there's no art on the actual slipcase. You do have a leaflet, which you all know I love keeping. This just showcases what is collected in here, a little bit of the artwork from Greg Capullo, the ISBN, and the retail price down there of $125, and then of course some praise for the book for different outlets. Now this really does look like, oh my goodness, plated steel, like something you would find on the sidewalks. It's really cool. It's a very unique design. I dig it. You can see right there. That is very nice. Embossed Absolute Dark Knight's Metal DC. And I know some people may not like, this design. They may not appreciate it because it doesn't have any art. And I'm kind of in between. I kind of dig it. There's nothing up at the top, and then the bottom does have, I'm sorry, it's upside down, the DC logo with the ISBN. It is shiny. It is beautiful. And speaking of shiny, check out that dust jacket. It does have a dust jacket. I love this design. It's got that silver foil look to it. The characters themselves, they stand out because the background is just this silver. You can see my reflection right there. Very cool. And it is a dust jacket on it, which I know from time to time DC puts on Absolutes, but here lately, it's been a long time since I've seen a dust jacket on an Absolute Dark Knight's Metal, which is probably the way that I'm gonna face it on my bookshelf with this. It's easier to read. Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, Jonathan Clapion, and FCO Plasencia? Oh, sorry about that. The back of the book, here, let me get this out of the way so you can better focus on this. The back of the book is the exact same picture. Okay, well, it's a picture at least. Underneath the dust, oh yes, that's what I'm talking about. So you have the actual pencils there, and this is the finished art. Might just be actually, yeah, before it gets inked, right here. And then here's the finished inks with colors. Very nice. So I'm assuming the back also contains that piece of art without the logo. And I wanted to show the inside flaps here. You have the bios on Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. And then the bat symbol with all these Justice League characters. What's up with that? This is a really thick, by the way, dust jacket. And I guess it has to be for the material they're using for this silver foil that they're using for the entire dust jacket. It's nice. And then Absolute Dark Knight's Metal and the same creators, DC logo. And this is all this nice silver foil. So it's really, yeah, you can see the reflections right there. Okay. So we're going to crack this open. We're going to talk about the contents of the book, and we're going to talk about the first couple of issues without going too big into spoilers. I got to give the pitch, the premise of what exactly DC Dark Knight's Metal is, and more importantly, what you should read before this, because I think it kind of doesn't really make sense until you start reading other works, and I'll just talk about some of the ones that I suggest you read. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so let's crack this open. Very nice. That plated steel design on the end paper. Absolute Dark Knight's Metal. And I know that this book was supposed to come out, I believe, a couple months ago, and because of delays, we are finally getting it. So there was supposed to be a little bit of a gap between this and the Omnibus edition. So there is an Omnibus of this that is coming out that will be more complete. Here are all your creators, the writers, the pencilers, the inkers, the additional artists, the additional colorist, and letters on the book. You do have a comics event introduction here from Scott Snyder This was written in 2018, so I assume that's from the deluxe edition. And you jump right into Dark Knight's Metal. That's kind of interesting. So this collects Dark Knight's Metal 1 through 6. So you get all 6 issues of the miniseries. It also contains Dark Knight's Metal, Batman Lost #1, the Director's Cut #1, and Rising the Wild Hunt #1. The book has 328 pages. And again, retails for $125. So immediately, something that's missing that I'm sure some people are going to be sticklers for, and rightly so, is the prelude. So it doesn't contain Dark Days the Forge, nor Dark Days the Casting, those one-shots. That kind of leads into the events of what's going to happen in the very first issue. It kind of sets up the story of not just Batman, but the story of Duke and Green Lantern. And a particular character making a huge return. So, really confusing why that's not in here, considering that's written by Scott Snyder. I much would have rather had that than the other one-shots that are collected in here. But, then map it out. Let's keep going with this. So, here we have Dark Knight's Metal. We are all in the world of Mongol right here. The Justice League is fighting. And, of course, this is a really interesting thing that I've just seen recently, both in here and in the pages of X-Men. So, they're all fighting in Mongol's War Moon. And then they decide that we're just going to build a giant Voltron Megazord, call it what you will, of the Justice League. I love the fact that Flash is like, why am I the foot? It's so ridiculous and over the top, and honestly surprising that both X-Men and Justice League have just done it in recent years. So then, after that big defeat, the Justice League comes back to Earth. And in the middle of Gotham City, they find the Challenger'S Mountain. And that is the headquarters of the Challengers of the Unknown. Now, if you don't know who the Challengers of the Unknown are, that's okay. It doesn't really add much to the story. You can find out through here. So Superman uses his X-ray vision to see what exactly is going on. And I feel like this is why I think you needed to have read the Dark Days stories, because it kind of sets up the character of Duke and the changes that have gone through him. Duke Thomas, who was first introduced in the pages of the New 52 Batman, also written by Snyder. But here they go into the mountain and they meet Kendra Saunders. And Kendra Saunders, of course, most of us that have read comics for a long time immediately recognize her as Hawkgirl. But right now, she's not. She tells them about a prophecy. She tells them about how there is a dark multiverse. So the characters here are used to the idea of the multiverse, not just because... well, basically because they've experienced the multiverse, every single character here. And really, this is really interesting. I didn't talk about this, but even at the very beginning, we do have the prophecy starting from the journals of Carter Hall, who, as most of us know reading comics, is Hawkman. But here we talk about the different tribes that have been at conflict with each other for years. And I'm talking about thousands of years, not just a couple hundred years. But you have these different tribes that have been in conflict with each other. And it's the tribe of the wolf, the bear, the bird, and the bat. Now, one could probably figure out what each one of those is, but let's not talk about that, because that prophecy does come into play. I am going to talk about one particular character, though, that plays a big part in the prophecy, and that is the character of Bruce Wayne. Or really, the Waynes. So the prophecy states that the Waynes are tied into this lord of the dark DC multiverse. And this beast is known as Barbatos, Barbatos. Call him what you will, pronounce it however you want. But that is the beast that lies within the dark multiverse. And in order to open the doors to this dark multiverse, they must gather these 5 metals. Hence the name, DC Metals. And they all have ties to the Wayne family, and particularly Bruce Wayne. Now, he has already been exposed to some of the metals, as they find out, which is why he decides to... Well, you think that's why he decides to get away from the Justice League. Now, there is a big somebody that shows up at the end of the first issue, so I'm not even going to talk about that. But this somebody does play a role in here, kind of giving you the background of the Dark Multiverse and the characters from the Dark Multiverse. But you can find out exactly who that character is. It's a character that every time shows up in the DC universe, I'm like, that's cool. I know you're not supposed to use that character unless you get particular permissions. But anyway, you can find out who that is by reading this yourself. Let's keep going. Now, this is the last part I'm going to talk about before I just look at some of the artwork here. But this, I think, is really important and not really a spoilery part because it sets up what will happen within the next few issues. But this is where Superman and Wonder Woman confront Batman. They finally go after him. And the reason he ran away is because he reveals that he has already been exposed to 4 of these metals. And one more could open the door to this dark multiverse. And honestly, all of these metals he's been exposed to, if you've read the New 52 era, you're going to be fine, because really it was what Scott Snyder wrote. So you have the Court of Owls story when he was exposed to the Electrum, and then he was exposed to, what was it called? Dionysium, I think, something like that. That was during the Endgame, and you can find out what that particular story is. That was in the New 52. And then there was a machine that he used for a certain reason. That also had one of these things. I think it was the Prometheum or something like that. I'm a big fan of Prometheus, the character, Grant Morrison's character. And then he was also exposed to that nth metal that he got from Kendra. So that's 4 metals. One more metal, and that opens the door to the Dark Multiverse. That lets Barbados into our reality. And he doesn't seem like a nice guy. So of course, what the hell is an event without horrible things happening? He's exposed to the final metal, and that is Batmanium. I wish I could make fun of that, but you're talking to the Uncanny Omar, who loves the idea of vibranium and adamantium. So, Batmanium, sure, sounds like a dance, but let's fly with that. And that sets the events of DC Dark Knight's metal. Why is there a baby Darkseid there? Well, I hope you read the Darkseid War, also during New 52. So required reading before this, I would strongly suggest reading Dark Snyder. Why did I... Oh, been watching Bastard with my wife, sorry. I would strongly suggest reading Scott Snyder's run on Batman, which is the New 52 era. Also, All-Star Batman, which introduces us to this group of characters. Not the All-Star Batman by Frank Miller and Jim Lee, but All-Star Batman by Scott Snyder. That introduces us to these characters that show up with Kendra. Final Crisis, absolutely, because the Omega Beam plays a part with Barbados' past. As a matter of fact, kind of the plot device here with Baby Darkseid. And again, Baby Darkseid, read the Darkseid War. I think that is that is all you really need to read before this to understand what exactly is going on. Now, as I said, the Dark Multiverse is coming. Now, remember when I said the prophecy in Barbados all has to do with the Wayne family? Well, rest assured that the multiverse, this Dark Multiverse where all these creatures came from, are all Batman related. So that's why this event is called Dark Knight's Metal. And, of course, because I talked about the metal. Now, that's not the only time they use metal. Metal is also part of this story. You can find that out for yourself. But here, this is where the character of the Batman Who Laughs is introduced. As a matter of fact, he's the character that gathers these particular characters up. So here we meet these alternate reality Batmans. Of course, this is the Batman Who Laughs with these Robins here from a different Earth. And I'm sure most of you probably are familiar with that character, whether it's the statue or toys, or you've seen promotional posters or ads about the character. But this is the story where he comes from. And he's not alone. He's the one that gathers these characters. So you have the Red Death, you have the character of Murder Machine, Dawnbreaker, the Drowned, Merciless, and Devastator, not to be confused with the Constructicons Devastator. And of course, Barbados. But, man, talk about a freaking ending to, holy crap, what's going to happen next? And of course they're not coming here to play nice. They're coming here to take over. They're coming here to not just take over our world, our Earth, but different multiverses. And this has a little bit to do with the multiversity. The whole Grant Morrison thing that was started all the way back in Animal Man. But I'm not going to say to read all that. Now let's check out some of the other artwork, especially from these one-shots. But I do want to show that the Justice League gets their ass handed to them. I love when that happens, when these complete badasses show up and somebody bigger comes along and knocks them off their pedestal. There's always a bigger fish. Liam Neeson. Alright, let's see. Okay, here's some of the one-shots right here. And I promise all this makes sense. And even though, like I said, the one-shots aren't that important, I wish they had added the Dark Days preludes to this. They still are a nice addition here. And they are written by Scott Snyder and actually Grant Morrison. And I think Jeff Johns even writes some of it. But the main event of DC Dark Knight's Meadow is all Scott Snyder. Now, whenever you have new bad guys taking over the world, there's always alliances that come out of this, right? Like good guys are teaming up with the bad guys. There's one alliance, I'm not going to reveal what it is, that happens in issue 6 that I'm still not sold on. And it has something to do with a character that I said not included here because they did not include Dark Days. I don't agree with that, but cool if you enjoyed it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, if you read it, you know what I'm talking about. And if you enjoyed it, more power to you. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And this is the Wild Hunt one-shot. I didn't even talk about the Plastic Man egg. Because, well, you'll see what that is. And you'll see how all that comes to play. But yes, this is the Wild Hunt. Oh, yes, Red Tornado, baby. Metal. Alright, let's look at the extras. By the way, that last final splash page of the epilogue, holy crap. Goosebumps. Takes me back to being a kid again. Loved it. Even the theme was playing when I was reading it in my head. But anyway, if you read it, you know what I'm talking about. Alright, let's look at the variant covers. All of them available in a splash page. So you have Jim Lee variant covers here. Make sure that none of these give anything away. I think even the crazy things like this really don't give anything away. You have Andy Kubert. You have John Romita Jr. Now this one I do have to skip a page because it did give something away. Where are the magic characters? Where are the Wizard Shazam, Captain Marvel, Black Adam? Oh well, just gotta read it. Not going to go through all the covers, just most of them. Man, these are gorgeous. Yes, Joe Benitez right there. Wait a minute, was that Simon? Yeah, Simon Beasley. Nice. And that looks like Michael Turner, my goodness. He passed away when I was in Japan, and normally that's when I do the Japan from Street Fighter, but, you know, talking about somebody that passed away. And, yeah, it's weird that his art is still being, I don't want to say recycled, it's because it's being recolored, but that's just weird that it's still being used. This came out in 2018, so it's 10 years after he died. And speaking of that, man, as of the recording of this, Carlos Pacheco. One of my favorite. Oh my gosh. I compared him. I think he is our generation's Alex Raymond. Man is a freaking master of his art. God's making one heck of a comic book up there this year. So many legends. Here we have character designs. And the reprint. Original art. So there's a lot of extras back here. This book has 326 pages. I'm sorry, 28 pages. And retails for $125. Wow, a lot of pages. Okay. So actually, this is all issue number 1, so I can't show the very end, nor any more of this. This is all printed on a thick, glossy paper. And the binding is sewn binding. And, of course, a ribbon. Because we're not monsters here. And that, as they say, is that. There's also a vinyl record of this. and death metal. By the way, this is, dang it, I forgot to say that at the beginning. This is not include death metal. Death metal is the follow-up to this a few years later. Now, that, as they say, is that. Probably should have done that at the beginning. If you're interested in purchasing this book, check out our sponsors. If you live in Europe and are interested in buying and pre-ordering Omnis, then you should definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices for Marvel and DC books within the EU, flat rate shipping of €12 for all EU countries, bulletproof packaging, and all emails will be answered within 24 hours. They offer a huge selection of out-of-print books. Just head over to waltzcomicshop.com for more great deals and rare titles. And for a limited time, you can use the code nearmintcon, all one word at the checkout, to get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order of over €40. Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for Omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this Absolute Edition. Let me know in the comments down below if you're picking it up, if you've never read this story. If you're going in completely blind, I suggested a couple of things in the video that might help you out understand this story a little bit better. Or if you're going to wait for the Omnibus edition, because the Omnibus, I believe, comes out now in January. And it will be more complete, just not in this beautiful, really unique package. So, questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Check out our Patreon and Spread Shop. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And more importantly, everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.